The world is in shock today as reports confirm that Burkina Faso, under the leadership of its young and determined President Ibrahim Traoré, has carried out a military drone strike that signals a bold and powerful message to the West. For decades, Africa has been seen as a playground for foreign powers, with France and NATO maintaining overwhelming military dominance across the Sahel. But with this single action, Burkina Faso has made it clear: the balance of power is shifting. This development is not just about drones or military tactics. It's about sovereignty, independence, and Africa's determination to no longer be dictated to by external powers. Traoré, who has become a symbol of African pride and resistance, is sending the unmistakable message that the era of Western hegemony in Africa is coming to an end. According to Reuters, Burkina Faso has been investing heavily in defense modernization, sourcing new technology from non-Western allies to ensure it can defend its territory and sovereignty. This latest drone strike is evidence that those investments are now producing tangible results. For many years, the French military dominated the skies over Burkina Faso and the broader Sahel region. Their air superiority was used as a tool of influence, giving them the ability to monitor, control, and sometimes even dictate African affairs. But with the introduction of advanced drones in Burkina Faso's arsenal, that monopoly is over. As Al Jazeera reported in a feature on Africa's shifting alliances, more and more African states are building ties with countries like Russia, China, and Turkey for military supplies. The result is a new military independence that directly challenges France's historical dominance. The symbolism of this drone strike cannot be overstated. Traoré is not only showing that Burkina Faso can defend itself, but also that Africa as a whole is capable of mastering the technologies that were once monopolized by the West. This act is a declaration of strength. It tells France, NATO, and every foreign power watching that Africa will not bow down anymore. Observers are calling this a turning point in modern African history. The use of drones, seen as high-tech and advanced weapons, by a country like Burkina Faso undermines the outdated narrative that Africa is technologically backward. Instead, it presents the image of a continent ready to innovate and to fight back against oppression. According to a policy analysis by the Africa Center for Strategic Studies, drone technology is becoming central in conflicts across Africa, with several nations integrating them for defense against both insurgent groups and external threats. This proves that Burkina Faso's move is not isolated. It is part of a continental awakening. But perhaps the most important aspect of this story is not the drone itself, but the message it delivers. The West has long claimed that its military presence in Africa was for the sake of stability, peace, and development. Yet, as African leaders and scholars often point out, the reality is far more complicated. Western powers benefit from access to Africa's resources, markets, and strategic locations, while many African countries remain impoverished. The drone strike is a symbolic rejection of that status quo. The question now is, what will be the response from the West? Some analysts believe this act could provoke a harsh retaliation, either through sanctions, diplomatic pressure, or covert operations. Others argue that the West may try to downplay the event, not wanting to give Traoré more legitimacy by acknowledging his defiance. According to a report by The Guardian, Western nations are increasingly nervous about losing influence in Africa, as more states reject traditional partnerships in favor of new allies from the global South. The drone strike is likely to deepen that anxiety. Meanwhile, in Burkina Faso, Traoré's popularity continues to rise. Many citizens see him as the leader who finally stood up to France and the West. The use of drones in defense of the nation has given ordinary people hope that they are no longer defenseless against powerful outside forces. Social media is buzzing with pride and admiration, with hashtags like Africa Rising and Traoré trending across multiple platforms. This development also raises serious questions for NATO. If a small nation like Burkina Faso can demonstrate such capability, what does it mean for larger African countries that may soon follow suit? Will NATO reconsider its strategies in Africa, or will it double down on military presence to try to maintain control? According to foreign policy, NATO and Western powers are already struggling to redefine their roles in Africa as their influence wanes. The rise of leaders like Traore, who openly defy Western dominance, accelerates that crisis. Beyond the immediate politics, there is also the symbolic power of this act for the entire continent. For decades, Africa was subjected to narratives of weakness, division, and dependency. Today, those narratives are being rewritten. The drone strike demonstrates that Africans are not waiting for permission from the West to innovate, to defend themselves, or to assert sovereignty. It is worth noting that this action did not come out of nowhere. For months, Burkina Faso has been strengthening alliances outside the Western orbit. Russia, for instance, has been identified as a growing partner in terms of security cooperation, while China continues to provide economic and technological support. Turkey, too, has been exporting drones across Africa. According to Anadolu Agency, Turkish drones have already been supplied to more than 20 countries, including in Africa, reshaping the defense landscape. Burkina Faso's acquisition and use of drones fits perfectly into this larger trend. The West must now confront a new reality. Africa is no longer a passive recipient of global decisions. Leaders like Traore are actively reshaping geopolitics, using technology and strategy to push back against centuries of dominance. And with every bold action, Africa's voice grows louder. What makes this development so fascinating is that it goes far beyond military hardware. This is about dignity, self-determination, and the will to be free. Traore's drone strike is not simply a tactical maneuver. It is a symbolic declaration that Africa is ready to stand tall, defend itself, and claim its rightful place in global affairs. As one analyst put it in BBC Africa, this is a moment of reckoning not just for Burkina Faso, but for the entire Western world that has long underestimated Africa's ability to rise. The old order is being challenged, and the future looks radically different. For the West, this is a nightmare scenario. A young, charismatic leader in Africa, wielding advanced weapons and rallying the continent toward independence from foreign control. For Africans, however, it is a dream long awaited. So as the dust settles on this drone strike, one thing is crystal clear. The world can no longer afford to ignore Ibrahim Traoré or the new Africa he represents. The balance of power is shifting. The old empires are crumbling, and a new dawn is rising across the continent. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel.